journey beyond imposter syndrome. This is where I invite you into a space where high achievers and spiritual leaders converge to redefine success and self-worth. By sharing transformative stories and engaging with thought leaders, this podcast serves as a roadmap for navigating the complexities of imposter syndrome. It's an intimate look into overcoming personal barriers tailored for those who value wisdom, leadership, and intuition in business and life. Join me at the Humble Warrior podcast with Alani Bankhead. Oh my gosh, you guys, welcome to the podcast. I've been waiting for this conversation for a hot minute because today we have the CPA Dude, Tony Hoong, on the show. Welcome, Tony. I cannot wait to talk all things CPA and finances with you.
Oh, let's go. Yeah, taxes, everyone's favorite subject. JK, don't be mine.
Everyone's, I know, favorite subject. Now, listen, my audience knows I don't bring people on accident. There's intention and good reason for it. And even though you just made a really cute funny about it being everybody's favorite topic, it really should be, because finances literally impact every part of your life. Here at the Humble Warrior podcast, my community is focused on overcoming their fears so they can achieve the life of thriving and joy and all the badassery and creating world-changing products and services. And one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I do see is finances, and specifically lack of awareness and understanding of what basic finances and tax structure looks like. So I'm really excited to go down the rabbit hole with you to see kind of what pops up. But his website is amazing, and it says that their overall mission is to provide holistic tax care and spreading tax literacy, which I really love, because so often with financial experts, you get this very intellectual brainiac element, and it's frustrating because finances are more than just the numbers. It's the psychology and the mindset around it, right? So I'd love to hear first, Tony, how did you get here? Tell me about the journey to CPA Dude.
Yeah, the journey's been it's been one for sure. So it was, I mean, all started as my parents, they immigrated to the US and then brainwashed me to, be a doctor. Every Asian kid has to be a doctor. So it was, I think, what, 7 years old, you wrote this letter to yourself of what you're gonna be. And then they returned that letter to you your senior year in high school. So I grew up in a small town, Fairmont, Minnesota, before I moved over to California. And so that was easy, 130 kids, 133 kids, my graduating class, so they could hold on to these letters and then open it up my senior year. It's just like, oh, you're gonna be a doctor. I was like, oh, wow, that's funny because science focused on, did well. And then, went there, was like, oh, I'm gonna be a doctor. And then went to college, biology pre-med route. And then that first year though, oh my goodness, it was just, went from straight A's to straight B's. And then my dad was just like, bro, you're not gonna make it, which is great, of just being honest, with me and making sure I don't go for failure. He just looked out for my best interest always. So then he was always in the restaurant industry, had his own restaurant, so he bought a restaurant. I just ran it for him. So I did that, moved into the boondocks of Iowa, and then from there, we did that for about a year and a half. And then afterwards, so my mom was like, oh, education, education, education. So these are all about education. So then we sold that and I went back. And then I was like, oh, all right, what's useful? And then accounting is very useful, right? So then I was just like, oh, let me do accounting. And then double majored in information systems. And then, during the whole route, it was just then you get brainwashed in the big four, right? It's, those big four accounting firms, these are the best firms of the world. Well, literally they are, right? But you're sold that dream, right? It's just, and then you get in. So it's like, okay, gotta get in the big four. So I got into KPMG, and it was pretty funny. I think when I was in the line to hand in your resume back in the day, that's how you did it, right? Career fair. And then my resume actually got set aside. So they only took 3.8s and I was a 3.5. I was just not horrendous, but not great, because that first year straight B's killed me. And then I was just determined. So I was just did the whole networking thing. And then I think the personality showed through and they were like, all right, let's give this kid a chance. So I got in eventually. And then when you get in, it was like, oh, this is not all they said that would be the greatest and best thing ever, right? So you get in, you work in heavy 70, 80-hour work weeks, throughout the whole year. When down season was here, down season was 50 hours. And I was just like, geez. So, did that stunt for a couple of years. And then I moved over to California. And then California in the Bay Area, what do? Work in tech. Everyone wants to work in tech. So then well, I went to Uber for a couple of years, DoorDash. And sometimes I tell people that, they're like, man, times got that tough. You drove? I'm like, no, no, no. I was like in the corporate side, but I'm like, there's nothing wrong with driving. It's pretty lucrative. Sometimes talk to drivers and you're making like 10, 15 grand a week. I mean, they're working nonstop, or a month, sorry, but they were working like nonstop. So I did that, and then finally, in the middle of it, my buddy was just like, "Dude, you have a CPA license. You don't do anything with it." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then he like mentioned a couple of years later, and I was like, "Oh man, fine. Like, let me try and do something with it." So then I just started a side hustle while still working at Uber, and I was seeing like, "Hey, does anyone want tax services?" Along this whole way, and like, actually got some good traction. And then it was COVID hit then, and then I didn't have to commute 2 hours a day, so I could focus on the business. And then it just like just turned overnight. So I was able to like walk away April of 2021 from the corporate life and then start the own business. And went from just me being one CPA dude to 31 dudes and dudettes now. So it's been a journey, super fun, but a lot of like challenges along the way.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And Tony, you are special and unique. However, this type of story is not special and unique to the people who are on the podcast. It's almost everybody I have on that's living their best life is like, I was told to do this. I started doing that. I was like miserable. And then I blew my whole career up. And then I took a risk and I bet on myself and things worked out, right? And so I'm curious for the listener today, because a lot of my listeners are those people who are looking for inspiration, right? Like they're very, very high achievers. They do follow the plan that life, well intended as it was, gave to them, but it's not aligned. And that's my story too, by the way. I'm curious, before we dive into the CPA portion and get into the technical stuff, how much more amazing is life on this side than before?
Oh, oh, I would. The taste of freedom cannot outpace the amount of money that you can get paid. So, I think when I walked away, it was like what 165 grand as like my base comp and like another 135 grand as stock. So it's like a 300K salary job, right? But it was 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And when you do, being an accountant, you do the math and I'm like, wait, post-tax, I'm making like 40 bucks an hour. Like, because maybe it was 8 hours and maybe a different story, but it was the one thing that pissed me off was it was New Year's Eve and it was at DoorDash, and they said it was a company holiday per the handbook. And then guess what happens on New Year's Eve? You get called in because they have to do a year-end financial statement audit adjustment. And then this like ruined my whole day. Like I had like things planned up, right? It's New Year's Eve, right? You thought it was a company holiday per the handbook. And then I was just like, nope. And so that taste of freedom once I just stepped out, oh, this, I say that's the best thing ever. Like, it's not all about the cash, it's about the mission, really, of like, hey, what are you really set to do? And then at the same time, like doing it, like you would die on your own sword. I'd take that any day. Like back, some days I look backwards, I pretty frequent, probably once a week or twice a week. And I'm just like, oh, it's 3:30. I'm taking my golden retriever on a walk right now. And back in the day, it's just like you would just be like stared at if you left before 6 p.m. Right. And then like working my parents' restaurant, it was like Friday nights, that's like game time, Saturday, game time. You work till 9, 10 p.m. and then go take up my dog walk at 5. I'm like, oh, life is amazing. So there's that taste of freedom. Just like once you taste it, oh my gosh, you just can't go back.
Thank you so much for putting it so eloquently because I agree with you 1000%. And I love that you use the word freedom because that's really what this podcast is all about. You have these humble warriors, is what I call them. They're like humble to a fault. They work their asses off and they achieve all kinds of great things for other people. But then when it comes to themselves, there's that little internal gremlin that tells them they're not worthy or whatever. And so, getting them to the place of understanding that like you are literally your best bet and having examples like you of, no, I climbed the corporate mountain. And when I got there, I looked around and realized it wasn't really what I was sold. But then the question becomes, what do I want to build and how do I want to build it, right? And I know we jumped over a lot of the like confusion or lack of surety around like what that looks like, right? But the point is that you're here and you're walking your golden retriever at 3:30 and you have that freedom, and that's what this is all about, right? And the community that we both share, it's all about building your business so that you can create freedom for yourself and for other people as well. Thank you so much for sharing, because I know, like, for me, if I don't see it done, it's hard to imagine what's possible, right? But when you have a Tony sitting in front of you, it's like, psh, let me tell you about what I used to do, you know? It's just really inspiring. So thank you.
100% for sure. I
Okay.
just tell folks, I'm like, not, I always say I'm just another dude, no, nothing special. If you just work hard, if you're working hard for someone else already, you can work hard for yourself.
Dude, exactly. And I say that to my clients sometimes when we get to this point in the conversation where I'm like, have you ever failed at any of your missions? And they're like, no. I'm like, then why do you think you'd fail at your own? And they're like, wow, I never really thought about that. And it is scary, but and I love using financial terms to discuss this journey, because I like to say you're the best investment you can make, right? You're the best bet you can make because everybody else bets on you to make magic happen in their lives. So let's talk about CPA, investment, money,
Oh,
magic.
I'm excited. Yeah, let's dive right in. Yeah, let's get to the juicy, juicy stuff here.
Yes, yes. Okay, so in terms of, so there's like a couple camps that would best be served by your information that are part of my community. Number one is like they have no clue about financial literacy. They are very high achievers, but money scares them, especially because they're to-do list like mavericks. And finances are so, like, there's so many paths to get to success that they're like, who do I listen to? So they don't take any action. And then the other camp is, I know a little bit, but there's kind of like, I'm doing okay. But deep down they want to make a greater impact, but they don't know how to do that, especially with their
Mm.
money. So let's start with like the basics. If I'm listening and I'm sitting in front of Tony and you're talking about, hey, this is what you need to know in terms of finances and accounting and all that stuff, like what would you say?
Oh, yeah, it's wide and yeah, we'll probably have to pick a few, otherwise we'll probably be here for years. But I would say the first one is just having the discussion with it with your partner, with your family. It's actually there's a CNBC report. People are more willing to talk about their romantic life than their financial life. So they don't talk money with friends, anyone, like even husband-wife combos. They don't do that at all. So having the conversation of it, just like, hey, how are you making more money? Normalizing, talk about money's fine. Like some people are just shy about it. And I'm like, dude, when I was like sad, my mom used to just make me go count the register, like just count all the money in there. I'd be happy again. And like, I don't know if it's a healthy relationship, but I'm like, all right, cool, it made me happy. So I'm like, hey, just have the conversations and not be awkward with it. That's your first part. The second part is actually knowing two things from a daily perspective and also from an annual perspective. A daily perspective is knowing how much cash do you have in the bank in your investments and is it going up each day? If it's not going up, you need to realize why. So similar to, I compared a lot of things to fitness too. It's just like, did you get your 10,000 steps in today or not? Okay, if you're trying to like gain muscle, is the scale going up? If you're trying to lose weight, is the scale going down? So are you measuring that every day? So that's daily. Do you know how much money you even have going in and out? And shockingly, a lot of people don't. And then number two is from an annual perspective, what is your total income? So you just literally had a call yesterday. I'm like, all right, what's your total income for this year? Because then from there, we can plan to see where we can save. So that total income is going to be from your W-2. Are you going to get a bonus? How much are you going to get from there? If you have stocks, interest, dividends, how much are you going to get from there? Rental properties, if you have them, are they actually making money or not making money? So knowing your total income for the annual basis. So that's your second thing that you have to do. And then the third thing I would say that you need to do is just overall have some type of plan. So once you get the full picture of like how much money you're expected to have this year, what's your plan? And I say that plan can be for this year, but also incorporate it from a 3 to 5 year vision too. So it's like, what are you trying to do the next 3 years, the next 5 years? If it's like, hey, start a family, buy a house, buy a car, or hey, switch careers completely, how can your current tax plan and your financial plan get you to those goals faster versus just being, hey, I'm only going to do it for 2025. I don't know what's going to look like in 2028. So having some type of plan in place versus like no plan, like going back to the fitness example, is just like everyone can go, hopefully what can go walk 10,000 steps a day, or hey, can get some movement in regardless, versus just sitting on our butts all day. So even you don't have to do 10,000 steps, right? Just do 1,000 steps. That's fine. So I'm like, same thing with your taxes and your finances. Some plans better than nothing, but write it out. If you don't write it out, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, oh, that is such good information, especially like the way you broke it down into chunks, right? And especially with high achievers in my community, oftentimes they're looking at the end state and there's such a big gap between where they are and where they want to be that they're like, oh, there's just no way I'm going to get there. And so for you to break it down to like daily, are you improving in your cash flow or not? Annually, how's that going? What's your overall plan, right? Like, what's the direction that we're going in with your finances? And there are so many people that don't understand those very basic questions. And it's interesting. So I host a group coaching cohort called the Joyful Money Club. And it's funny because I'm an imposter syndrome coach, but money is a great tool to uncover all the fears and self-doubts that you have. And when I ask people, like, hey, what's the goal? Like, where do you want to be? You know, you're on your deathbed, you lived an amazing life. Like, what'd you do? And they're like, I don't really know. And I understand why that can be overwhelming because there's a lot of different facets of life. So then I'll ask, what did you not do or what did you avoid? Now everybody has a list of like, well, I don't want to end up poor, I don't want to end up this, right? Like, and so that's a good starting point if you're listening and you're like, I don't know what my plan is, right? So for you, I'm sure you probably do get those folks that come to you and they're like throwing their money at you because they don't understand finances and stuff. So, do you have any tips for the listener who might be in that place of, okay, type of plan? Like, how do I start to cultivate what that plan looks like? How do you walk your clients through that?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's actually very similar to like those couple steps I lay out. But the in terms of planning, I always say like, what what do you really want? Like, ask yourself. Like, it's fine to have the nice car. It's fine to have the nice house. It's fine to take the vacation. It's fine not to climb the ladder. But what's actually gonna make you fulfilled? You know, I always say happiness is just a state of one like moment of time. Fulfillment is like an everyday thing. So I was like, what's actually gonna make you fulfilled? So really going and reverse engineering there. So like if they know the end goal, it was like, hey, I don't want to be on my deathbed and I didn't buy that car or I didn't travel to this country, like put it on the calendar and just make it happen. If it goes on the calendar, it's such basic advice, but it actually changed my life a ton in the last 2 years. Every 30 minutes is on the calendar now. Like literally, you know if it's actually going to happen, if it's on the calendar. If you don't put it on there, you're like, I think I'll do this. And that's cool. It lives on the to-do list. But if you can just literally translate your to-do list on your calendar, you're actually going to get it done. But going like diving like deep into the dirt though, what do you actually, in terms of like the finance and tax side, is you know, ask yourself, hey, what am I doing today to save money on taxes? And it can be as simple as if you have a 401k at work, at the minimum, if they have a match program, you have to get that. Like it's like a non-negotiable. It's free money, right? That's a 100% return on your money. So grab the 401k, and then if you're able to be in a fortunate position enough, max it out, 23,500 this year. And that's a significant amount of money, right? Don't think that, hey, I only do a 401k. I'm like, 23,500 is a ton. Like I tell folks, if you save $10,000 in taxes each year and we compound that for 30 years at 8% with good old Warren Buffett S&P 500, you're literally 1.3 million. So everyone literally is a millionaire. It's just a matter of your velocity and what time you get there at. So you can get there. So if you put away even 10 grand in your 401k, you're going to be a millionaire by the time you retire. So it's very achievable. Don't think it's not. Making a million in a year, yes, that's a very select few. But at the same time, if I gave you $1 million tomorrow, would you actually use the whole thing? I don't think so. You could buy a house, and after that, year two, if I gave you another million, all right, buy a car. But you're gonna have residuals after a bit. So like just having a little bit, 401k is huge on that side.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you dropped like 15 wisdom bombs in there, and I have to go back just to articulate them for the audience. So, first, you talked about happiness versus fulfillment, which I really love because so often in life we chase the end goal, right? So we'll be like, oh, when I get there, I'll be happy. And to your point, you got to corporate and looked around, and that feeling of happiness that you thought was going to show up didn't. So, how do you differentiate? I know you gave a definition for happiness versus fulfillment, but what are some examples that you can use to help someone differentiate between the two?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like fulfillment's your North Star. Like if you wake up, like what are you like meant to do today? Or like what's like what do you stand for each day that like is like, okay, if I did these three things, I would be super happy. You know, for me, it's going to be simple as like serve my clients, making sure their taxes are taken care of. Two, hang out with the wife, hang out with the dog. And then three, hit the gym. And those things make me fulfilled. So those continual things that I can do on a daily basis that are always going to make like keep gas in the tank, that's always going to keep me going. And then, you have spikes in happiness. So I say happiness is just a spike. So let's just say like, okay, cool. There was like there's a monthly golden retriever meetup in the Bay Area. And it's like, all right, I spike my day of happiness, but it's still part of my fulfillment. So other parts is just like, hey, maybe you'll have happiness doing there's like these VR, like there's a Squid Game VR that we went to a couple months ago. And I'm like, oh man, that was wild. And, it was a spike, but continually you're not gonna do that day to day. So I'd say like your happiness, those are like those things that are really like, oh, you take a vacation. Like really what like was like, oh man, what puts you as a kid in a candy store? Those like sugar highs, right? It's kind of like how I define it.
Oh, that is so good. And yeah, so I like the sugar high analogy, but then also with the fulfillment, it's like almost like a permanent sense of joy, right? Of even when things are not fun, there's that constant thread of, man, but I'm working towards something that is meaningful and aligned with who I am and my values. And that always feels amazing, right? So I know an example for me right now is I got recalled to active duty and I'll be finishing here soon. But I'm active duty and I'm doing the business like nights and weekends.
Oh,
So it's literally hair on fire, but I'm having the most fun because both missions are just super cool and it's temporary, right? So I'm getting to the end where I'm like, I'm so tired, but the joy that I have of being able to say yes to all of these amazing things fall under my life purpose. Oh, so good. And then the other tidbit you dropped and then walked past was if it's on the calendar, it'll happen, which I really, really appreciate because that was something we had to learn too, especially as recovering workaholics. Um, Vacations, it might have been one a year, maybe, but my husband and I had to get into the habit of every year we do family planning kind of for the next year, and we'll decide in December of every year, like what are the vacations we're going on next year. And then if there's a big vacation we want to go on eventually, we'll plan out, like you said, 2 to 5 years in advance so we can start saving and stuff like that for it. But that has been such a game changer because it used to be where a long weekend like this weekend is coming up. It's going to be Labor Day weekend. And I normally would have been like, oh, dang, like we could have planned for something, right? But we're tired. Now we're decompressing. But because we pre planned, we already have a concept, we already have accommodations to go where we want to go. And so yeah, that calendar is super powerful. And I also want to talk for a second about the psychology behind that because now we're involving our reticular activating system, right? So you have all these thoughts, 40,000 thoughts a day. And as soon as you get it out of your brain and onto paper, even if it's two dimensional, your brain starts working towards it. So we're using your biology to work for you to your point of you're like, oh, calendar, game changer for me. I love that. And so it's the same thing for the listener. Put it on your calendar, right? If you're not good with finances, sit down, put your daily check in your calendar, right? How much cash do you have in the bank? When do you want to do your annual check-ins? When feels really good to do that stuff, especially if you're partnered. My husband and I, like, we do lots of frequent financial check-ins, but the end of year, December, it's like fancy dinner, the wine comes out, the champagne. Like, we're really celebrating because every year we crush financially because we have a plan in place, to your point. So I'm curious from your perspective, are there any other kind of like mindset themes that you see with your clients that maybe could help create awareness with the listener around patterns they might be exhibiting that aren't helping them?
oh yeah, for sure. The thing is, so we have a lot of like high income earners working 9 to 5 W2, and they come to us and they come to us for tax strategy and planning because they want to save money on taxes. And that's like the core job. But I was just talking to my COO last night. He flew in for an event today, and where I was like, what do you actually talk about with your clients? Because 80% of my conversations have stopped being about tax planning and strategy. And it's actually talking about business, real estate, like how do we get more money to like break out of the grind? And it's very interesting. And then, those folks that are just, I call it like, I won't say stuck per se, but they just don't know. Like I can like literally feel the itch coming out of the screen. I'm like, dude, I feel it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I had one guy, I was just like, hey man, I know you really want more. You got your family, I understand that, but I know it's eating you alive. And I was like, dude, this more like Saturday, 7 a.m., no phone, no kids, before everyone wakes up, just go for a hike and think about what are three ideas, businesses that you would love to do that work with, hey, for his limited, his like constraints where it's got to be with the kids, he's got to be at home. And like, what can he do? So I was just like, hey, just go out there and just think. You'll be shocked. Some of the stuff is just like I used to call it woo-woo stuff. And before, because I'm black and white, I'm an accountant for goodness sakes, right? And then like in Asian cultures, there's like black and white again. Like you don't really like buy into the gray space. But over the last 5 years, where I really started working my personal development, I'm like, oh my goodness, like you invest into yourself to actually believe it's actually going to get happen. So one documentary that changed it a ton for me, it was the Michelle Obama one on Netflix. And I remember watching it and I was like, oh my goodness, her mental mindset, it's like the Mamba mindset. It's like, this is why they were the best at what they do. It's literally, if you believe in yourself to do it, you actually can do it. So it's really weird being a CPA and accountant. Your numbers, right? It's literally like if-then equations, but it's the stuff in the middle that gets you there. So like, I know I went a little bit off tangent here. Like, so that client was like, hey, like go out, think about, write it out. That's the other thing. Sometimes like myself, I have a notebook because I'm like, I call it my little binky. I'm like super stressed. I'm just like, write everything out. I'm like, you feel so good. Just really know like, hey, there's help out there. Just reach out. It's cool to talk about numbers, cool to talk about money. It's not awkward. If you have friends that are like doing well, they're more than happy to share. If you actually like talk to a lot of successful people, they're more than willing to share actually. It's just, can you just get on their calendar is all.
Yeah, that is so true, man. And no, now we're getting to the real meat and potatoes, which, you mentioned woo woo and you're like, I went off tangent. I'm like, no, this is exactly where we need to be
Yeah.
because that gray area is what this podcast is all about. And so now we've talked about, we've entered into spirituality space, which some people can get really like touchy about it. And to me, I define it as whether you want to call it spiritual, the metaphysical, whatever, it's something you believe to be true that you have no physical evidence exists, right?
Ah,
And so the idea of like, compound interest is a great financial example of this, right? Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And I still remember when my husband and I, well, we were single. We hadn't even met yet when I started investing. And I'd heard about compound interest, and it does require faith. Even though I know intellectually, I see the charts that say if I keep putting a little bit in my investments every single month, the growth is going to be slow in the beginning, but then at some point it's going to skyrocket. And I think we were maybe 15 years into that journey when I did my finances one month and I was like, we made $30,000 while we slept. It's real. Like, right? And so that was when I realized like that actually finances do have a really big woo element. And to your point, that mindset is such a big part of that, right? So you're like in Joyful Money Club, I say your self-worth equals net worth. So
ah,
the more you believe in yourself and that you are the best bet, the more your network is actually going to increase on its own. And we see that with all the clients that we have. And so I'm curious from your perspective, when you started entering into that space, whether it was through the Obama documentary or whatever it might be, especially coming from a place where you're like, like woo wasn't really a thing, right?
yeah.
How do you incorporate that element for yourself, or how do you teach your clients to enter into that space and explore it?
Oh yeah, I actually use a lot of financial returns to display it. And so the big thing is, so let's just pretend that you have your checking account or savings account, sorry, and it's like a 3% interest rate on your money, right? The next step up is, maybe a money market account, it's 5%. Then, okay, cool, let's get into real estate now. So maybe a great deal is like 10% cash on cash return. S&P 500, 10% through its historic life. Obviously, it's up and down a lot more. So I'm like, all right, we went from 3.5% to 5 to 8 to 10. So those are great. Now the next part is though, is here's the next like leap and big change. And like I've gone through all these myself though. So it's like I've invested in all those. And then it's like, oh, okay, cool. So then the next step was like, oh, you have your own business now. And it's like, all right, first you get paid in freedom, but now you can go actually calculate your real net profit. So then you calculate your net profit. And let's just say, anything from a service-based business is, anywhere from 30 to 50%. And then even if you sell a physical product, like, say you flip Stanley cups, 10 to 20%. Now you're like, oh, wow. So if you zoom out and say, if I put $100 into my business, I'm going to get $30 on top at a 30% margin. Versus if I put $100 into my checking account, that's like a penny. That same is, once again, 10% of that. So I get 10 bucks. So I was like, why wouldn't you want triple the amount? So those are all true financial products that you can use. Now, the next one is you yourself, if you can kill it already in the day to day, you're a 100% ROI. So it's like, why wouldn't you put that money back in yourself? Also, being Asian and being as frugal as I am, if I spend $24,000 on a program, I will go get my $24,000 back no matter what. Like my mindset is, all right, spent invested 24,000. I always say it's an investment though. I never say it's a cost, it's never a fee. I'm invested $24,000. I'm gonna go meet two, three clients that go get my money back at a minimum. And then I get all the skills from that person that I'm learning from. So these are just all investments, but you have to make it and put in the work yourself though. But then you're going to go and be like, oh, I don't have time. Yes, you do have time. Go look at your calendar, my friend. So, like, trying to squash all these excuses by tying it back into whether it's the money part, the time part, there's literally no excuse for it if you want it bad enough. But then if you literally look at your calendar and there's enough time, let's just pretend the whole week's full. The whole 168 hours is full. Okay, you don't have time. All right, is there anything you want to sacrifice? Do you want it bad enough? And then, okay, there is sacrifice time. All right, Netflix time. I don't need to do 4 hours a week. I can do 4 hours in investing myself. So, like, breaking it down one by one by one into the big chunks and the smaller ones, you actually can do it. It's just your own mindset of why you're not doing it. Though, so generally, I say, scare of your parents, scare of your friends, your own self, your judgment, the fear of failure. But the fear of failure is actually other people's opinions. So, like, because for yourself, like my dad, he taught me up in my, he was probably the best mentor I had my whole life. And his whole thing was just like, don't care about anyone else's thoughts. You just go do you. And then whatever they can accept you or not, that's totally fine. So, I never really care about other people's opinions. That will affect me. Yes, do I care? Of course, right? Every human does. But will it affect how I act? It will not.
I totally feel that 100%, Tony, and I love everything that you're saying. And going back to what you were saying about kind of sucking the marrow out of that investment, right? That really resonated with me as well because I say that. I also say, to me, in accordance with who I am, it's really important to me that I be a good steward of the resources that I have access to. So anything that I invest in, whether it's a coaching program or, something else, I've done the research and I've determined that this is going to enhance my mission. And then when I get it, then I'm doing the best I can to take care of it and use it to optimize whatever business or personal outcome that I'm looking at, right? And I think that's really important because my audience is not wasteful in any way, shape, or form. So the idea of investing in themselves can be really, really difficult because most of them are very service oriented. It's all about everybody else and taking care of everybody else. And so it's really counterintuitive when I'm talking to them about Yeah, but when you take care of yourself and you invest in yourself, you actually multiply your ability to help other people because you're putting, in this case, your financial oxygen mask on first, right? And I mean, I have people, it's super crazy. Like my background is in the counterintelligence, like human trafficking space, and nonprofits bite the dust all the time in the space because you have these amazing humans who are so humble. They're like, no, I don't want to advertise and I don't want to ask for money. And then they go bust because you need money to run a nonprofit or a business, right? So getting them to that place of understanding that, like, no, actually, it's about being a steward of the resources that are out there. And oh, by the way, there are people with a lot of money that want to give to causes that matter to them. They want to make an impact with the resources they've been given, right? So it's interesting because we're talking about money, but now we're starting to touch on this idea of like, it's not about hoarding or just like acquiring as much money as possible. To me, the financial conversation is money's just a tool that you use to build the life you want. And so for me, the money comes when I need it and it goes somewhere else when it needs to. And I'm curious for you. I'm going to set you up for a question real quick because my relationship with money has changed to the point where like I almost view it as like a person because it was very impersonal. I mean, it's just money, right? For years and years and years. And I always felt like I didn't have enough of it. So when we do our finances now, I'll be like, oh, like, hey, Mr. However much money, like, where do you want to go? And intuitively, I'll feel it's like, okay, we have our savings that are automated and stuff. But then it's like, actually, we feel a draw to like put our money in this nonprofit or to send our money to this location or whatever it might be. So I'm curious for you, like, are there any other kind of intuitive elements of finances that you found as a CPA or important to consider as people are defining their financial style?
Ooh, that's a good one. So in terms of like considerations to put towards, I would say really like that oxygen mask that you mentioned. It's selfishly just do it for yourself first. You really seriously can't take care of anyone else if you're not primed and ready. So like even though I shortchange myself on sleep and try and get more and more, it's like, hey, I gotta show up ready to serve those folks. But if you're not the best state of yourself, it's really not gonna happen. So because it's, that, surround yourself with like, those five people and you're in the average, if you're gonna bring down the average, do you really want to do that to your loved ones? Because those five people are your loved ones. Be ready for yourself. I think service-based industry, I mean, I do this to myself still to this day, but it's like, why is my tax return last and not first? I'm like, all right, let me take care of the clients, but do prioritize yourself first. It's just like you just can't give out if you're just depleted and dead. Like you just got that energy to give. So putting it back in is, and it's a weird change, but it's like, it's okay, right? No one's gonna be like, hey man, why did you do your return first and not mine? Like in hindsight, right? So I think that's the part, just put yourself first. There's really not anyone that you just can't give out more. So I think that's one area. And then one second area that I would say is the money part that you bring up. It's like a per person. It's a trade. And in Chinese cultures, we have like these red envelopes that you put money in and you give out for special occasions. And then I'm like, when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I got for $50. And then now you hand them out. And I'm like, oh, wait, is this the circle of life? It's just like, dude, by the time you pass, it's net zero. It's just, it's just you just used it for a certain time, and that's how you just unfortunately, that's just how the world transacts. And we have to be, mindful. Back in the day, you could trade like a chicken for, 10 chickens for a cow, maybe. But now it's just like, hey, you guys got to trade dollars for it. And then the last part is like understanding that the more money you have, the more freedom and then time you have back. So time is just the one equal asset that no one can buy. You literally can't buy more of it. We have all the same 24 hours, but you can kind of arbitrage it a bit. So it's just like how much more you can arbitrage to do it towards. So it's like, hey, if I charge, $300 for 30 minutes, all right, cool. And then I got someone at the house who can do 2 hours worth of work in terms of like cleaning for 300. It's like, all right, cool. I just 4x'd my time in a bit, right? So now I don't have to do it. So it's just really those small things. I used to be way too frugal to even pay for a cleaner. And then like, just, because that's what my Sunday job was at my house for my mom doing chores growing up. You clean the house, you'll, sweep the floors, you mop the floors. And then I was like, I'm not going to pay someone to do that. But then it's just like, well, do I really want to have to spend another hour and a half? But then we have a vehicle of like, hey, if I want to spend an hour and a half on my business, I can make X to cover Y. So just knowing like, hey, it's just a trade. I like how you put that. It's just like, it's just a currency that we have and we just trade it back and forth. It goes in, it goes out. But I think if you know your North Star and it's something that's some way income producing and you just keep on marching towards that, you're gonna get there no matter what.
Oh, that is incredible. And I loved your circle of life analogy because it is really true. And at the end of the day, you literally can't take it with you.
Not there, might as well just spend it. Yeah.
Right, right. No, that is so good. And I know that my listeners are absolutely loving this conversation. We're going to switch gears real quick to
Oh
tax
yeah.
optimization.
Mm-hmm.
This topic obviously has been coming up a lot in the news and whatnot. Like people are pissed off, right? The economy's not doing that. Even though on paper, like it looks good, people are feeling the pinch in their wallets. And there's, everybody has an opinion on how they feel about taxes. And so I'm curious from your perspective, first of all, what is tax optimization for someone who doesn't know what it is? And why is it so important for you to teach it to your clients?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So tax optimization is just anything to reduce the amount of taxes that you pay. So if you like, a lot of people fall into this rat race where it's just like, cool, you got your W-2, taxes are withheld, you file it next year in April, and by that time it's too late. So all the tax optimization has to happen in the current year. I always say like, hey, when it's December 31st, clock strikes, it's like boom, Cinderella turns into the pumpkin again. It's kind of just over. So do any type of strategy to reduce your amount of taxes. And the reason why it's just so important is that it's always like, it's the same playbook. It's just how do you use it, right? So everyone has access to this. It's not like it's only for rich people. It's made for anyone if you know how to use it. And the key part is why it's so important is just that $10,000 example that I say is just like, hey, if I saved you $10,000 this year in planning, if you just put that money into S&P 500 and just let it compound for 30 years, you'll have 1.3 million. So it's why wouldn't you? And then it's an everyday expense. I think for a while I got these Kevin O'Leary ads, and his thing was like, taxes are your biggest silent killer expense that's draining your wallets every day. And then I was like, man, he's really good at marketing. But I mean, seriously, it is. I mean, us breathing right now, the income that we're gonna make, I mean, the government just gets, a cut of it. And it's like, it's not illegal. You don't have to pay 37% federal. You can pay 10%, 12%, 22% legally, so you can reduce. It's like you don't have to, but if you want to be my guest, that's totally fine. It's just not what I stand for. It's just like, hey, put it back. Because then if you just say you go from the 32% bracket down to 24, and then you got an extra 10,000 bucks. Hey, can you put that back into your local community, local restaurants, even go out and eat? You'll be surprised. Like, all right, cool. You have 10,000 bucks with disposable income now. You go out to, support. I'm always like local businesses. So it's like local restaurants, local retailers, put it back in, then they are able to spend that money back in their own community, right? And that whole community uplifts ultimately. So that's why tax optimization is like just so important. It's like you don't have to pay all of it away. You can pay just your fair share.
Yeah, and there's that circle of life analogy though again, right? Of it's not just about you saving the money for the sake of saving the money. It's what are you going to do with that money? And for you, talking about reinvesting that into your community can look like going out to a small restaurant, a local restaurant to eat there, right? The restaurant's making money, the server's getting tip, like there's all kinds of benefits outside of just you, quote unquote, selfishly having more money for yourself. And I think that's a really important point that you made to open up the perspective because so many people have these thoughts about having money is bad or like if I become rich, like I'm going to become this evil, horrible person. And that's not true, right? It's just a tool that you use to create the life you want. And so I love for you how you're just thinking so much bigger than the individual. It's what do you want to build with this? And, ascribe to a lot of what you're saying, actually, all of it. And it's funny because I'm going to oversimplify for the sake of time. But when you look at sort of how traditional life structures work in America, it's like you're born, you go to school, and you work hard to get good grades. And I love how you were like, I got B's, which equal F's, and like your house's culture, right? I come from a
Oh yeah,
Hispanic
yeah.
culture, same thing, right? But like all of grade school, the mission is get the best grades possible. So you can get a transcript so you can apply for college. So that then you can get A's again, so you can get a resume, so you can enter this workforce, so that you can get the corporate gig or, whatever, and then work. And then to your point, so many people are waking up and saying, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And although this is a very layered, complex conversation that we're having, I think a lot of people, well, for me, this is like breaking out of the system, like the matrix kind of to me. And I'm not saying, I know a lot of people are like, oh, the man's trying to keep you down. Like, I don't personally believe that. Like, I have gone to countries where you literally are born into a caste system where you have no control over anything. So for me, when people get mad about America, I'm like, go to this other country. Like, here you can literally come here with nothing and build a $1 billion empire. But with that being said, when you look at the tax structures, I view it now as a game. And I think that's what you're alluding to as well, right? Rather than it's like, tax time. It's like, ooh, like we're playing the tax game. And the question is, for me, I want nice roads to drive on. I'm military. We are a government family. Like I want the services that protect me from being murdered and all, the water and all those things, right? But also, like, when you look at how that system is structured, small businesses, investors all get taxed at a lower rate, right? So when you like go through all the schooling systems and then you get the job, you as the W-2 employee are amongst the highest taxed people in the country. And so what I'm really hearing you say is it's about breaking out of that cycle if you want to. So what are some of your favorite strategies to optimize taxes?
Yeah, yeah. For the W-2 listener out there, the biggest one that we use, and it's the best way, one of the best ways to build wealth, is the short-term rental loophole. So that's buying your Airbnb, and you know what that is. The loophole is where you actually have to run it at least for the first year, and you just have to have quick stay, so average stay of 7 days or less. You have to like actually run and talk to your guests, coordinate your cleaners. But what it does is that so real estate by default is considered passive. With the loophole, though, it turns into active. And you can use this tool called bonus depreciation that you can accelerate a ton of your expenses in the first year without actually having to pay for it. So, if one example is like if you buy a $500,000 house and you run it as an Airbnb the first year, you can easily get probably at least, I'd say 80 to $100,000 off of for deductions. And let's just say that $500,000 house, you only did 10% down as a second home, or it can be even your first home, your house hack is, but I'll just use an easy example. That's $50,000 out. You get a $100,000 tax deduction. So you just arbitraged $50,000 out of thin air by using the tax code. So like I always joke and say, depreciation's like the ninth world wonder of the world. It's like, it's why all the rich buy real estate. And anyone working W-2 can do this. So any Airbnb that you can have, that's huge. So not only is it going to help you on taxes, but all that income is going to be, it's not taxable, right? Because you have losses. So I would say on paper, you look poor, but in your bank account, you got money. And then number two is now it's, producing income for you. Say it's producing, 1,000, 2,000 bucks a month. And then lastly, the house is going up in value, so it's appreciating. So it's a great wealth building asset. So that's going to be for, W-2, you want to get into it. The second one is be like, if you're W-2 now, I mean, start up some side hustle. Like the tax code's like really efficient for small businesses. So, like it doesn't have to be a full blown. It can be a sole proprietor. You don't even need an LLC. You don't have to. I just saw Kiss is like my lifestyle. Just keep it simple, stupid is my lifestyle. And I'm just like, I had one guy, we just started a Pokemon business. He just wanted to get back in Pokemon cards. And I'm like, all right, cool. You can sell on Whatnot. It's like the online social selling app. If you're not on Whatnot, check that out. It's deadly too. You'll spend thousands of dollars. But go to your local card shows and you can buy all these Pokemon cards. But now we have an avenue to write off his home office, his cell phone, some of his car mileage. So some side hustle. And like everyone has a superpower already. Because like if you don't think you have a superpower, like you want to just rewind for a second and be like, why is your employer paying you today? Like you're doing something well. where they're willing to pay you. So you could literally just do that. I would say like, hey, what's your W-2 job? Oh, okay, cool. You're a consultant for a marketing agency. All right, could you just do this on the side too now? And then, lifestyle expenses, you can easily rack up 500 bucks a month just between, rent, utilities, Wi-Fi, electricity, all that stuff, and then your cell phone. And then some like electronics, the new iPhone's coming out next month, right off your iPhone. So just some side hustle is better than nothing at all. It doesn't have to make a ton of money. It can just be like 5,000 bucks, but it'll be huge for you just to have that all tax free because anything that's a tax deduction, it's like, so let's just pretend your tax rate is 24%. Anything you buy is now 24% off. So it's like, do you want like a lifetime coupon? It's like, as long as it's ordinary and necessary for your business, you can just write it off that way. So I try to run almost like as much as I can through my business as I can, but sometimes there's this stuff you can't, right? But hey, could that vacation over to Vegas, can you do a conference for it first, meet other individuals, network, build up your net worth too, and then go have some fun afterwards?
Oh, 100%. I love using these strategies myself. Although, you taught me something new. I didn't realize you didn't need an LLC to be able to do all that stuff, which is really
Yeah.
fascinating. There are a number of people I know that they might be thinking about a side hustle. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, let's get you going. They're like, but I need a name. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, what do you want to name it? And they're like, I don't know, right? It has to be perfect. And I'm like, just go. Just like start doing the thing and it'll all come. Or you can pick something and change it later. You can start your side hustle. And if you want to pivot, that's totally okay too. You can still get the tax write-offs. And I love that so much, especially for W-2 folks. And to your point, like it does cause the amount that you get taxed on to get lowered. And we do the same things with, first of all, like one of my mantras is I love keep it simple, stupid. Me too. Like my investing strategy is so boring and easy, and I'm here for it. But same thing with business, where I'm like, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. So the conferences that we go to are like pinch me, like I'm going to Lewis House next month in
Oh,
LA and I can't
nice.
wait. But you make it into a vacation too, right? Like while you're there. And so there's like tax strategies to write off the airfare and the lodging and the rental car and all that stuff. And so these are just little things that you have to learn from people who know, people who are just a couple minutes ahead of you that can teach you these things. But I love that so much. And the point is also just start, right? Just start and learn. You're going to figure it out. Like everything is figure out. I will say though, as we're getting ready to wrap, you had mentioned earlier about sort of this concept of stay in your zone of genius, right? When you talked about paying like a cleaner and stuff like that to offload that time because time is something you definitely can't buy. But I really love and appreciate that conversation. And actually, when I first started my business, I ran to my first dollars so I could pay a CPA and a bookkeeper because I can't imagine anything more draining, honestly. I'm just like, ugh, like I can't, the receipts and all that stuff. The idea of just like throwing my money and my receipts at them, I'm like, whatever you want. Just make my taxes like pretty. And I also actually do a mid-year check-in with my CPA now. It used to be more frequent earlier, but just, hey, what stuff are you seeing that I'm not taking advantage of, right? And just ask for that wisdom. And so I'm exchanging a little bit of money to shorten my timeline to success and confidence, which is exactly what people who hire you do. Gosh, Tony, I really could keep talking to you forever about this stuff. This was incredible. So, if people want to hire you or want to work with you, how can they find you?
Oh yeah, everything is standard uniform for us as the CPA Dude. So Instagram's the CPA Dude. That's great there. Our website's the cpadude.com. Same thing, our TikTok's the CPA Dude. I think our texting line's 254 CPA Dude. So everything's like we try to CPA Dude everything. So yeah, anything there, feel free to reach out. More than happy to, chat with everyone and, just give them game on how not to overpay. It's just more money back in your pocket, you're gonna be happier. And take that long awaited vacation or even go get a massage like that you've never wanted to pay for. It's just like, hey, if you want an extra bucks, we'll make that fun for you.
Yes. And guys, we talked about a lot of stuff. We went down a lot of rabbit holes today, but ultimately, just start with a plan, start somewhere, and go. Tony, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, start with a plan. I just got to echo that actually. It's just some plans better than no plan. So take some action versus no action at all. I would say just it can just be a IRA, a 401k, HSA, simple stuff, low hanging fruit. Just do it. That is all.
Yes. Tony, my audience is going to love this. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really, really appreciate it. And if you're looking for more resources, guys, check out my life purpose exercise freebie to get to that fulfillment that Tony and I were talking about. You can get it on my website, mightysparrowcoaching.com, or you can check out my book, The Least of Us, How Your Imposter Syndrome Points to Your Greatest Power, available at all major book retailers. And until next time, humble warriors, please remember the world needs who you were made to be. Thank you for joining us today on this journey to discover how you can harness your imposter to work for you. If you enjoyed this episode and would like some help overcoming your imposter syndrome, check out the free life purpose exercise on my website and subscribe to my blog. If you already know what your life purpose is and are ready to crush or harness your imposter syndrome, then you're going to love my best-selling book, The Least of Us, How Your Weakness Points to Your Greatest Power, available on Amazon and all major book retailers. Or you can hit me up at alani@mightysparrowcoaching.com to discuss private coaching or corporate and government training. That's ALANI@mightysparrowcoaching.com. Listen, there's only ever been one you, and there will only ever be one you. And you have a specific gift to give that the world desperately needs. Don't let your self-doubt be the thing preventing you from living your most joyful and impactful life. Until next time, I'm always cheering you on.